This has been something that I've been talking about on my channel for a little while now, and I'm excited to officially announce that I'm ready to get it started. As the title states, you can be a GM in my channel going head to head against me in NBA 2K25, and this video is going to tell you just how we're going to make that happen. Now, before I go any further here into this video, I need to tell you that the number one thing that I need from you to make this work is to go subscribe to my recently made second channel. That's where all the magic is going to happen, where at least most of the magic is going to happen here for this official beta test, really, to see if this can be something that can become a regularity here on the channel. For it to work the way that I want to, that channel needs to have 500 subscribers so that I can regularly post into the community section of that channel. So until we reach 500 subscribers, it's going to be a lot more difficult to function this the way that I want to. I know every YouTube channel says this, but I also will say that it will be important to hit that notification bell on that channel as well. And the reason is, how this is going to work is going to come down a lot to voting, and I'm only guaranteeing a 24-hour period to vote on pretty much everything in relation to your team. So if you're not getting the noti bells, you might be getting to these voting opportunities late when the decision has already been made. So I know every channel says it, but I think especially for this second channel, that noti bell is going to be very important. Now, without further ado, how are we going to do this? How can you be a GM in my NBA 2K25 draft only series? I've come up with my first draft of an official rule set here, and let me bring my face over here as I kind of walk through each step with you. I want to describe this rule set. I want to make sure it is something that is easily understood. And of course, this is the first draft. With this being a beta test, if there are rules that need to be added, to be clarified, please let me know either in the comment section of this video or as we go throughout and I'm posting videos onto that second channel. This is a beta test. I'm going to rely on you guys very heavily throughout this process to fine tune it to see if it's something that we can do going forward. So let's get started here with the rules. There are going to be three main rules here before we get into the how it will work section. The first is that I think in order for this to function, the subscriber-led team will be forced to follow the same draft-only rule set as my channel. One thing that I probably shouldn't have waited this long to say, but my main goal here with this experiment is two-pronged: to increase the fun that both you and I have on this channel, and number two, to do so in a way that doesn't severely increase my workload here. I'm a small channel, and so the amount of time and effort I can put into this channel isn't infinite. I gotta, go do another job and sometimes even two jobs to win me some bread. And so I can't have this infinite workload to always be able to take every single request. I thought about not making it a draft only franchise for the subscribers, but what that really does is it eliminates a lot of possibilities of, hey, go trade for Wemby. Hey, go trade for this player, that player, that player. You're not going to be able to use them. It's going to be a draft only franchise. It also sets us up on even playing field. And I know specifically for this beta test, it won't be a super even playing field because I've already been playing for several years and you're just starting now. We'll address that a little bit later here on into the video. What does a draft only rule set mean? You must have 12 draft only eligible players on the roster at all times. And those come from three main pools: the expansion draft, with this being something you're joining in the middle of a series. It'll just be the players that are on your roster when you first take over it. They'll all be considered draft only eligible. That'll be your version of an expansion draft. the players you acquire in the rookie draft, and the players that you acquire in undrafted free agency. The other rule in a draft-only rule set is that all players in your rotation must come from the draft-only eligible pool. You will be able to sign free agents, but those will be mentors that aren't getting regular minutes, and the only time they will be able to get minutes is when you have less than 8 healthy draft-only players. And that is for at least the games you watch. Sometimes when there's a minor injury that's for a week or two, I'll let one of the mentors play so I don't have to reconstruct an entire custom lineup. That'll be pretty much the same for your team as well. So the mentors will get minutes here and there, but not any impactful, not any night-to-night minutes. The second rule here is the subscriber team will also have the same realism trade restrictions as the main channel. I know that a draft-only franchise isn't 100% realistic, but at the same time, I don't like to kind of cut corners on my way to make it too incredibly easy. For example, I did not allow myself to trade Jalen Duren for Allen Larson last season, something that there was some buzz in the comment section asking me to do that. I didn't allow myself to do that. You guys will be held to that same standard. Any player or pick that I am not allowing myself to trade for, I'm not allowing you to trade for either. And it's just in the case of, why would anyone ever give up the chance to take Allen Larson unless you're giving them just a team that's ready to win a championship next year in exchange for a rookie? Yeah, maybe they do that, but no realistic trade, or maybe even close to realistic trade, could happen for a certain player. And this is where I'm going to give the subscriber team an edge for this beta test. This rule will be disabled for the first off season. I will allow you all to trade for the number 1 pick if you do not get it organically. Spoiler alert, this draft is actually really good, and so allowing you guys to get the number 1 pick, I think, will help even the playing field. I will say the Seattle Supersonics are in a pretty good position for the draft. We'll talk about that later on in this video and as we post content over on the second channel. And the third thing, this was kind of a potential problem I foresaw as I was making the rule set. There's going to be times when we both want to do the same thing, right? Maybe we both want to trade to the 3rd pick in the draft. Maybe we both want to sign X player as our go-to mentor, etc., etc. In the case of that happening, which I think won't be honestly entirely uncommon, if both teams want to make the same move, the priority will go as follows. The first dib will go to whoever had a worse season last year. The worst team, if both teams want to trade to up to 3, whoever was worse last year gets the first chance to do it. And then once that first domino falls, it'll alternate, kind of like the possession arrow in college basketball, as to who gets priority when both teams want to do the same thing. So those are the kind of the restrictions that I'm putting on your team. Other than that, it just comes to, how is it going to work? So there's 2 rule sections here. There's in season and off season here. So we're going to start with the in season. That's a little bit more straightforward. I will say, in the case of any voting opportunity, you'll get a minimum of 24 hours guaranteed to vote. I will not make a decision that I put up to a vote before 24 hours in any case. I'm guaranteeing that for you guys so that you don't have to stay on top of the series always to make an impact. You at least get a full day to vote in any case. The first thing that will happen in season is lineup voting. This will happen 2 to 3 times, or I guess even more depending on how deep you go into the postseason. This will happen before a season. This will happen mid-season, aka post-trade deadline, and it'll happen in the postseason prior to every playoff series. I'll allow you to vote on who should play how many minutes. This will be done via a Google form that will be posted, and every single draft-only eligible player will be on that list, and you'll be able to vote for how many minutes they should get. It'll be in 4-minute increments. That's how I like to build my lineups. At the end of the day, I'll be taking how many minutes per game you want, and I'll be creating my own custom lineup based on the minutes that are voted for. And the minimum minutes per game I'll give somebody is 8. There will be a 0 option for the guys that you don't want to play at all, but I'm not playing anybody 8 minutes, and I don't generally play anybody more than 36 unless they're one of the 5 best players in the league. They have to probably be like a 95 plus overall for me to be willing to go above 36 minutes per game. Again, after that, I'll be the one creating a custom lineup, but I hope that I've shown you that I have the ability to create some good lineups that always have, you know, players that you want on the court. And so I hope you can trust me in that aspect. Second will be training and mentor voting. This will be happening in the same preseason poll in the Google form that will be coming out. I'll be asking what you want your players, your young guys, to be trained on, and what badges you want them to be trained on from their mentors. That'll pretty much be the main thing there. And then the other thing that will be voting for in season will be trade deadline voting. Prior to the trade deadline, I will compile a list of the best offers available for all the vets on the team and combine them into one Google form with a vote to either do the trade or not. And in the case where there's a couple teams offering very similar packages, I'll include all of those so you can vote for trade A, trade B, or no trade. And just as a note here, dropping comments on the videos, which we'll be talking about later what those videos will be, will help me get an understanding of who you want to be on the trade block. Saying, I think we should see what we can get for X player, or this guy's a core piece, please don't trade. Well, you know, that will end up coming to a vote, but just letting me know who I should be looking out for trades for via the comments will help me out. Next up is the off season, which I think everybody's a lot more excited for, including myself. So for the off season, those are going to be happening on the main channel. I got to keep you guys on the main channel in some form or another, and we'll talk more about that later. But for the off season, all off season will begin with a stream that will include both the lottery and the draft preview. And every single piece of knowledge that I have about a prospect, I'll be giving to you. I do not want to make it unfair in any way. I'll talk about the prospects that I got clips on, and I'll show you those clips. And then I'll kind of scroll through all the high potential players so you can just get a look. We will both be operating off the board that I create. I know we could technically both scout different players, but we'll both be operating off the Vancouver Blizzard board so that we're on an even playing ground here. This will be happening on the main channel only. I will put a post on the second channel. Again, I need 500 subscribers on that channel so I can post regularly there. It'll be main channel only streams, so I'll post the schedule. If you can make it, that's when the vote's going to take. But that will not be the only time to vote. For after this lottery and draft preview video, a stream, there will be another Google form. It's going to be a lot of voting in the community section and through Google Forms in this series. That's really going to be how it's done. And there you'll create a big board. I'll just ask you to rank certain players. I'll ask if you want to do a certain trade up, etc., etc. That way I can get an idea of how chat sees this draft. Unfortunately, the one drawback of doing this is I won't be able to really offer up my opinions on prospects until after the draft, because A, I don't want you to know my big board, and B, I don't want to influence your opinion and tell you that a guy is good when he might actually be a bust. I want you to make all the decisions yourself. So that being said, I'm still gonna generate clips. I thought for a moment that I might not even generate clips and I might just, but at the end of the day, I guess we're having this discussion right now. I still want this to be a highly interactive channel on my main channel as well. I want to show things. I don't want it to become some competitive that it's me versus you all the time, because that's not super fun, because that disincentivizes you to think up ideas and put comments on my main channel, and that disincentivizes me to show you things. So if this is going to work, I'm going to need a promise from everybody that you'll continue to drop comments on my channel, you'll continue to interact with my channel, and I promise you in return that I'll continue to try to make it fun and not some competitive thing. So it's going to be a two-way street here. If this is going to work, it needs to help my main channel thrive as well. If my main channel is getting less views, less comments, less likes because you're coming over here to the second channel, it's just not going to work. I'm going to tell you that right now. Second up, there will be a draft and free agency live stream, and this once again will be streamed on the main channel exclusively, with a minimum of 24 hours for you, of course, to create your draft board after the first stream. And the voting there, they'll still be voting. It'll be done through live stream polls. I haven't really experimented much with live stream polls, but they're pretty easy to do, so I don't think there'll be much problem. And okay, should you trade out for this pick? Who should you pick at your pick? Mentor signings in free agency, as well as undrafted free agents. That's honestly not a super important part. You just pick a position you're shallow at and sign a UDFA. But, for the most part, it'll be done live stream polls during the draft and during mentor signing. So you got to be there live, unfortunately. I think that's the only way to do the off season, or else the off season would take forever otherwise, in real time and in video. And then after this, there will be opportunities in the live stream to voice opinions on if you want a number change, if you want something to change with somebody's face or gear. There will be no editing of ratings. I will say, I forgot to put it in this rule set, but part of the in-season voting for the preseason will be touches tendencies as well, because that's the one tendency that I do edit, but there will be no tendency editing, no rated editing or anything like that. But appearance and touches tendency, though it won't happen during this live stream, that stuff we can talk about. And if there's sufficient interest, aka if there's like a lot of exciting rookies on the teams, then we could do a summer league live stream where we would probably watch one game from both teams. But that's not going to be an every year thing for sure. Now, how will you watch your team to make informed decisions as to what you should do with your roster? In the regular season, I'm going to record the same number of games as I do for my franchise. So if you see an episode drop on the main channel, expect probably the next day for an episode to drop here on the second channel where it's your team playing. However, one of the goals that I said was that this wouldn't increase my workload exponentially, and I'm definitely not about to start editing twice the amount of videos that I am right now. So that's one of the reasons. The other is to give you maximum information. If I cut stuff, you won't see all of the game. There's going to be uncut games, which means there's going to be pretty long videos. But these are for players that want to watch their team play. It's going to be pretty much like a GM sitting in the box watching the team play. I will also not be commentating these games. Again, partly to save time. I could live commentate while I'm recording the games, I guess. But at the same time, I don't want my commentary to influence things. You guys are the GM. I'm mostly fulfilling your wishes. I'll be rooting for your team to succeed whenever it's not playing my team, that's for sure, but it's your team. And to make it more watchable, I can turn on 2K's commentary if you don't want just a game without commentary. But yeah, these will be uncut games. I hate editing, and I'm not about to subject myself to do twice as much as I already am. Once per the regular season, when our teams play each other, it will be live streamed. For this game, we're not going to be doing any crazy custom adjustments or anything because it's just a regular season game. I guess unless it's one of the last 5 games of the year and playoff seeding is up for grabs or something, that could be an exception. And then we'll also alternate who the home team is every year when we do this particular game. Playoffs. When you guys make the playoffs, which I hope won't take too long. If it's against the CPU, the whole entire series will be released all at once, much like it is on my main channel. That's going to make it super long. Each uncut game is a little over an hour, kind of depending on some factors here. So that could be anywhere from a 4 to 7 hour video, even more than that. So depending on need, I might be simcasting parts of the second and third quarters to shorten that up a bit, both for myself and for you. Because of this, you'll only have a chance to determine certain lineup strategies and other strategies at the beginning of a series. Any mid-season adjustments will fall upon me, and I will do them. If your team's struggling at something, I'm not just going to say, hey, this is your pre-series adjustment and you're screwed. I will make adjustments. Again, I hope you could trust me on these things, making custom lineups and making mid-playoff series adjustments, because ultimately the way that we're doing this and the pace that I want to continue in this series, that's just the way this is going to happen. And then finally, the last subject we got to talk about, I feel like I've been talking about this for a while now, is the playoffs. When our teams meet. This inevitably should happen at some point here in the series. And if our teams meet in the postseason, we're going to live stream every single game. I just don't see any other way that is fair, because in the postseason, I like to make halftime adjustments at times and stuff. So if I can do that, but your teams can't, that's just not fair. So there'll all be live streams, and any adjustments will be available to vote before the first and third quarters of each game. So basically pre-game and halftime adjustments. I'm not allowing second and fourth quarter adjustments or anything other than that for both sides. I won't be able to make a change 5 minutes in the second quarter. Neither will you. You can make a change before a game and you can make a change at halftime, and you live with the results. Again, this is more just so that every 4 minutes somebody's not saying, hey, change this, hey, change this, hey, change this. Just gonna bog it down ultimately. So that is the rule set. This rule set will also be linked in the description of this video. But that's not all that I have for you here in this video. I have one more thing, and it's our first test for the second channel to see if this can work. So we're gonna end off this video by really having our first test here. Now, I don't have subscribers, so I can't do it the way that I normally would by going to the community tabs and either posting just a poll straight in there or via a Google form. But what I can do is post a video over there, which by the time this releases, I will have posted a video over there that will allow you to vote on if you should make this particular trade prior to the deadline or not. Before we get to that trade though, I do want to just go ahead and go over the roster that you're going to have to start out, at least right now, before a potential trade. Taking a look at this roster, you have two 33-year-olds at the top, and those are your only players over 80 overall. You're in a tough spot to start, and that's going to make things interesting. If you look at your young players, your best player right now is Florin Paunescu, who's 22 years old. He's only a 72 right now, but he does have some really solid potential. You look at that remaining potential there, but if we go to his grades, it says B right now, but we've learned that the comparison bar over on the right is much more accurate. So he's got really good potential here, 22 years old. After that, your next youngest player is 23, Donnie Tiggs. Not much to say about him, but you have Jermaine Longley, a 6'3" point guard here with A+ perimeter defense, A- playmaking. I should say Paunescu has A rebounding, B+ inside defense. But perimeter defense, 3-level scorer, got good playmaking. I mean, this is a really solid player all in all here in Jermaine Longley. If you look at his potential, he is slightly below average, so likely going to be like a solid starter at his max. You have Klitman here, who's of course a real player, B+ perimeter defense, A- 3-point, a good, outside focused 4-man that you can have either as a good backup or, more likely maybe a low-end starter. And then your last generated player is Sean Martin, who's a 2-guard, 6'5", 24 years old, B+ inside B, 3-point, B perimeter defense on him. And if you look here at his potential, slightly below average. So your only guy with like real upside is your center Florin Paunescu right now. He has one badge. Let's see what it is. I'm trying to give you guys all the information you would want, that I would want if I was taking over this team. You have Pick Dodger here for Langley, and then one guy, he's 27, but he's at least solid with A perimeter defense and A- 3-point. He's probably going to be somebody you're going to keep at least for the foreseeable future, but I might be wrong. It's going to be up to you guys to vote. So there is one move, and this is going to be our first test here of this subscriber GM team. Would you make this trade or not? And it's going to involve both Pascal Siakam and Clint Capella. I think you also need to give Donnie Tiggs in this. What you will be acquiring is Paul George, but most importantly, the Clippers 2028 first. They are currently the worst team in basketball. This is the odds-on pick at this point in the season. We're nearing the trade deadline to be the #1 pick in basketball. Why would the Sixers trade this? They got some good players. I think they're still trying to win while Embiid's good. And Siakam's much better than Paul George. So I think Philly, they're 6th or 7th in the East right now. This trade could boost them up to a home court advantage team, at least a team that's interesting and could make it to a conference finals, and from there, who knows, So I think it's easy to explain from Philly's perspective, this trade, but you could get potentially the #1 pick in this class. Now we'll go over the other picks that you have here. I think you need to add. You need to add Caleb Martin. He's a 75, and this is just salary here. And then to make this work, unfortunately, you need to add a little bit. You need to add the 2029 Spurs first. I think I saw this go through. It was something close to this when I saw it go through. You might need to add. Oh, you know what? I do think it required a little bit more than this. I think it required your 2032 first. I believe this was the trade that I saw would go through. So, Siakam, Capella, Diggs, Spurs next year. They're the #1 seed in the West right now and in the entire NBA. And your first round pick, well into the future, it might need to be the 2031. Just to be safe, I'm going to say it might need to be the 2031. So that's obviously a little bit more sketchy. But we're going into the 2028 draft. So you have 2028, 2029, and 2030 to make your team good, which I think is enough time. I made a very similar trade. Traded my first round 4 years in the future, and it worked out for us. I will let you know that you do have some solid capital this year. You have 2 projected top 10 picks right now in your own pick and on the Cavaliers pick. They're pretty bad. And they're projected to have a top 10 pick right now. So you already have 2 top 10 projected picks. You could add a third that's almost going to be a guaranteed top 5 pick probably. And you could have an absolutely massive haul. Now, I don't want to quite preview the draft yet, but it is fair that you want to know who it is you could potentially be trading for. And so I would just say the top pick in this class is going to be Oliver Thompson, 6'11", 236 pounds. He is a very similar prospect to the Dante Hardy and the Ayrton Saramago. We've seen this build before. If you go to his, we've seen Daniel Still starter floor, Tim Duncan Hall of Fame ceiling. We've seen that on 2 prospects already. So this exact player model has already been generated twice in this series, and it was Dante Hardy and Ayrton Saramago. So very good. And I'll also say the depth is very good as well. I'm not going to go super hard right now into going through this draft class, but I will say it's a very good draft to have top 10 picks, especially top 6 picks. I'll say that the 6 best players in this class are going to be very good. Maybe at least depth-wise, the best class we've seen. At the top, I don't think Thompson is as good as Saramago or Allen Marshall. I'd say he's the 3rd best player that's been generated in this series so far. But the depth, there are 6 really good players in this class. So that's the experiment. I want to see how many votes we can get. Do you trade Siakam and Capella for a pick, or do you hold on to him for another year, maybe dish him out, keep your options open, or are you putting in the chips right now for the 2028 draft class? Let me know. This voting will be in the comment section of a video. Again, on the second channel, it'll be the only video on the channel, and I'll be going through pretty much the exact same trade offer. Watch the video, vote in the comments, and whatever you guys do is what I will do. And we'll be back soon to continue on the Vancouver Blizzard franchise. And until then, bring the Blizzard.